Did you know that you can decoupage and paint Resincrete? Today we're going to be using some kitchen silicone molds, some Resincrete, some napkins, some tissue paper, some wood to create what I hope is the semblance of a coastal sailboat decor. It's going to be a fun experiment, so let's get to pouring. We've got my favorite Eco-Resin, J. Dixon's Resincrete. It's just water and powder. I've got tons of videos on this stuff, so feel free to go back and look at those if you're not sure what this is. I also ordered some kitchen silicone molds because I couldn't find what I was looking for anywhere else, but that's a little trick for you. Remember to think outside the box when you're looking for your molds because there's a lot of good kitchen molds that will work for your resin. We're going to need a kitchen scale, a mixing cup, and a whisk for our Resincrete. And of course, don't forget your gloves. Resincrete is mixed by weight. So I set my scale on grams. I first add my water and then my Resincrete. And your ratios are on the back of the bag if you need a little help figuring out how much of what to add. But it's just as simple as that. And then mix it up until all the lumps and bumps are out, or at least most of them. And it should look like this, kind of like a pancake batter. And then you've got about 8 minutes working time to get these poured into your molds. I've got a couple of different shaped triangle molds. I'm hoping one of them or two of them will work to give me the idea I have in my brain to make this sailboat shape. As always, I will link all the supplies and have them listed down in the video in the description section, and I will provide discount codes for anything that I have a discount code for. I'm just taking a silicone stick to get it into the corners of these triangles, and then I'm going to pour this other mold. And be sure to give them all a good jiggle and a wiggle to let them settle into the molds and release any bubbles. And in 30 minutes, they are ready to demold. It's that easy. That's why I love Resincrete. Now I'm going to let these sit out and dry for several more hours, and then we're going to get back to step 2 of our project. I'm going to go ahead and seal these with some Resincrete sealer just because I know I'm going to paint 1 or 2 of these with some acrylics, and that usually works a lot better once you've sealed them. And you just simply sponge this on. I'm going to do both sides. I'm going to let them dry. And then we're going to figure out how to put this together. I've got this hemp string that I'd really like to use because I think it has that coastal vibe. And I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll sandwich it between 2 of the triangles. And because these ones have a kind of a lip around them, I'm wondering, can I just dome up some more Resincrete on the string and will that work? Because I've never done it before, so hey, why not? Let's give it a go. I'm taping my string down, so I'm just mixing up a little more Resincrete, and I'm going to just pour this right on top. And because my camera is right in my face, I made a mess, a big mess, but it's okay because Resincrete's really easy to clean up. So this didn't go as planned. You know, not very graceful pour, but you get the idea, right? I'm just going to smooth this out as best I can and let that dry. And then I'm going to add 1 more coat of Resincrete just so that I know it's really thick and it's going to hold that string in place. This kind of reminded me of if you've ever used royal icing on cookies, that's what this was like. And I wasn't any better at this than I was at doing royal icing on cookies. I'm going to let this dry for a few hours and then come in with my little sanding machine. This is an amazing tool by Let's Resin. Comes with all different size heads and sandpapers. You can buff, you can sand, and it's just a good tiny sander to keep in the studio. So I'm going to just clean this up so that it's smoother, but I'm not too worried about the look because this is going to get decoupaged. Now on my thinner triangles, I think I'm just going to glue them together with the string in between using some of my super craft glue. And I'm going to do the same thing with my second set of the elongated triangles. Is there a name for these? I'm not sure, but the longer ones. But I'm going to drill extra holes in this one because I have an idea. Stay tuned. And so yes, if you're wondering, can you drill through Resincrete? You certainly can. Now I'm just going to sand off the edges a little bit because again, I'm going to sandwich these two together with some glue and my string in between. And I think this will be a good one to paint. And because I've got some gaps and I didn't quite line my edges up right on this one before it dried, I'm just going to take some UV gel putty. If you haven't used this stuff, it's great for things like this. I'm going to just kind of fill in those seams and then cure it under my UV lamp. And again, I'm not worried about how it looks because this is the other one I'm going to decoupage. Now that those are dried, we're ready to start decoupaging. I've just got some Mod Podge. And I'm going to start with this tissue paper. I just thought this looked like a fun kid's bedroom kind of a sailboat look. And you just brush on your Mod Podge and then work your tissue paper around it. And it'll dry pretty quick and you can move on to do both sides. And then trim it up and clean up the edges with some more Mod Podge. So there's step one. Let's move on to our second decoupage. You've probably seen me use these whale and fish napkins in another video. I just think they're so cute and definitely have the coastal vibe. Be sure to separate your napkins so that you've only got one layer that you're dealing with. And it's just like we did with the tissue paper. We paint on our Mod Podge and then lay it down. Spread it out with your fingers or a piece of plastic or paper. My fingers were getting a bit sticky, so I used a piece of paper to help spread it out. Finish those edges, trim it up, and you can see we covered up those seams and you don't even know they're there. We're going to let those dry and we're going to start painting our other one. I've just got some acrylic paints by Arteza. I picked out a few colors that I thought were sailboaty, and then I'm going to tape off lines because I can't paint a straight line to save my life. And then I'm just going to paint them. This would be a really fun project with your kids or grandkids too. Just have fun, use your imagination, and do what makes you happy. Whatever floats your boat, right? And I want to give a huge shout out to my channel members and those who have bought me a cup of coffee. I appreciate the extra support so, so much. Thank you all. It's so satisfying when you peel the tape off. And I think this needs a little bit of red too. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side of this as well. And then I'm going to seal all of these with a Krylon sealer. And now we're ready to move on, and we're going to drill some holes in our wood to hang these through. And then I'm going to string some beads for the one sailboat idea that I have that I don't know if I really like. You guys can let me know what you think. I added a little screw hook on one end of my driftwood and one in the top that I drilled in this triangle because I had this idea in mind ahead of time for this one. And then I just grabbed a bunch of my glass beads and I started stringing. And so here are our finished pieces. I think I could improve this quite a bit, but it was an experiment, and I'm hoping at the very least you guys just get some inspiration and ideas out of these videos, and I bet you could do this a whole lot better. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and until next time, have a great day and happy crafting.